talk about a high mileage vehicle. This 2009 Dodge Grand Caravan has 382,000 miles. Time to change the head gasket. We're gonna do that today. Flywheel cab number 9001, right there. Has 380,000 miles on these Chrysler Dodge 3.3 liters. These are little workhorses. We're gonna tear this engine apart today. Be sure not to skip ahead. Watch the whole video. Pause if you need to. About to start. Pull this guy up. Take it out of the way. You'll see the drain right there, that little white wing nut. Take out the intake air temp sensor. Get a sander to remove that. Push these guys out. Lift it up and out of the way. Next, remove these two 8mm bolts right here. That 13mm, use a deep socket for it. And you'll see on the back end of this pipe, there's two more of those 8mm bolts. Once you remove all 5 of those, this pipe can come out.
Okay, you gotta take off this alternator bracket. 2 13s right here, really easy. Comes right out.
Next, I'm gonna remove the plenum. Take off this clip right here. Vacuum line, hose, another vacuum line, the 10mm bolts along the top, and remove the throttle clip. This one right here is actually, looks like they siliconed it on. So we are just going to remove this, but on this car, we're also going to remove these Torx bolts so we can separate the plenum from the throttle without having to remove that clip. But normally you won't have to. Just remove the clip. Those 10s that are on top are good enough.
Okay, next up is the coil. You gotta remove that clip in the back.
Just slide it out a little bit.
Slide it out. And remove the red tab. Then there's a couple 10s. There's supposed to be 4, but on this car there's only 2. See them right there, the 2 10s.
Normally there'd be more.
Yeah.
Okay. Normally, some people would mark the spark plug wires, but we really don't need to. The coil is marked. As you see, the numbers right here are stamped on. Basically, the number 1 cylinder is going to be back. So the cylinders on this car go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And correspond with the spark plugs. We're going to remove this whole coil and take it out. The bolts holding this coil plate down are missing, but you would just take off that one, and then just pull this up. Okay, slide these red tabs away, undo these clips right here. You do not have to take off the fuel injector clips at all. This thing can just stay together. Remove that, so that one is removed. Do the coolant temp sensor, the EGR, these 2 larger clips right here. Okay, you have this bracket right here. I'm going to remove the 3 bolts, or 2 13s on this side, so you can get a better shot. Those 2. And that one right there. On this back bolt, it's best to use a 10-gear wrench. It just makes it easier. Okay, to take off this intake right here, the bracket we just took off, the 10 that's on it, is one of the intake bolts. The other ones use an extension and a deep socket. You actually get to them, you can see them going through. And the same if you go the opposite direction. You can go through and get to them on this side. They're angled that way. You don't have to take off the fuel injectors. You don't have to mess with the O-rings unless you want to, unless you have the parts. You don't have to take off these 10s either. Just the 3 going that way, and there's more going this way. Also, so this is the angle that actually they're going to be at, going in that direction, and also going this direction, all the way down. Don't forget to also remove the thermostat housing. Fuel line, another handy use of the hose pliers that we get from Harbor Freight. If you don't have the fuel line disconnect tool, not everybody does, but most people have pliers. You can also use the 10mm wrench to push it up. But basically, you're gonna push this up and push this down to where it collapses in,
Just like that.
and then pulls right out. Heater hose line clamp, remove the clamp, pull the hose off. Quick accounting of how many intake bolts so you're not stuck prying with, and forgetting a bolt. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lower intake bolts. Okay, the intake is going to be stuck sometimes. Do not pry against the valve cover. These are just plastic. A nice point to pry is going to be right here. The aluminum sticks out, and you can pry against the head. Pry right there, you'll be fine.
Okay, next up, intake's out. You got to do the valve covers. These little 8s, pretty obvious. And then there's 2 10s that hold on to the lower intake gasket. That one.
Remove those.
And that one.
Pull the intake gasket out. Okay, once you get the valve cover off, this rocker assembly, you don't even need to touch the head bolts right here. The other set of head bolts are below this exhaust manifold. Here's the tricky part. These bolts are always super rusted. I recommend spraying them, letting them soak in for a bit. And also these. This nut and bolt right here. On the bottom is another nut and bolt. Good luck.
Repeat the process on the backside too.
Okay, we're gonna spray this with some PB. Let it soak. And on a side note, what you want to use 6 point 10 millimeter. Do not use the 12 point. Make sure it's the 6 point. Use a 12 point, you run the risk of stripping it out. Okay, now we have the exhaust manifold off and the intake. We haven't taken off the exhaust yet on that side. Guess what's next, Jack?
Taking off the head.
Wait, we don't have to take off the alternator?
No.
What about the serpentine box?
Nope.
None of that has to come off?
No, you don't have to take off shit on this car.
Are you kidding? Well, we had to take off some stuff, but nothing on this side? What about the motor mount?
Nope, no motor mount.
Power steering pump?
No power steering pump.
Are you sure not? The alternator looks like it's attached to the head.
No, not
Let me
quite.
reach my fingers back here.
Yeah, go ahead, reach. Reach all you want. It ain't.
Holy crap, you are 100% correct. None of that has to come off. Next, 15 millimeter head bolts. 15 millimeter head bolts. Thank you. How many of them? There are 8 of them.
8? Yeah.
Okay, just like our last videos, take them off a little bit at a time so the head comes up evenly.
And outside to in.
Outside the end, yes.
All right.
Okay, the front head is off. Another thing that we want to cover is this fibrous material. This is the Bars Leaks head gasket sealer. It just sticks up in here. It plugs up your system. It's crap. People need to stop using that. It doesn't work. Next is going to be the rear exhaust and the rear exhaust cross pipe. Okay, rear exhaust bolts are just like the front. We're talking about the exhaust manifold bolts. They're going to be 6 10 millimeter bolts. A little bit more tricky because they're facing opposite direction. If you have to climb back there, go ahead and climb back there. Now that the exhaust is loose, let's remove these spark plugs. That will allow us to shift the exhaust over so they're not covering the head bolts. That'll prevent us from having to take off this the exhaust manifold completely from the downpipe, because those bolts, they break about half the time. We just don't want to deal with it. Okay, now that the oh, you want to talk about it?
It doesn't matter.
You know.
Okay, now that the exhaust is all loose, you can shift, and the spark plugs are out, you can shift the exhaust back and forth like that. So push it as far away as you can. Let's see, now I'm on the bolt, and when it's in this position, all the other bolts are right in the gaps. So that's real easy.
Okay, let's talk about those push rods. I just don't like taking off the rocker assembly. You can take it off if you want. It's just the 10 millimeter bolts on top. I just don't like doing it. It's my personal preference. I think I can just push them up like Jack is doing right now. It's fine. Okay, you know why I like these Caravans, or at least the 3.3 liter engines? You can take off pretty much the whole top of the engine. You need to do a head gasket. None of the small crap has to come off. Remove those heads, and And these are all the parts we took off. That's it. We just took off this. Literally in about 45 minutes. Took it apart. We're gonna send the heads out. Have them checked for warpage. Make sure the valves are sealing properly. But literally, it's such an easy damn engine. This van right here has 380,000 miles on it. What do those Fords get? Ford's a crap.
Like 200?
Ford's a total
less.
crap. Those overhead cam with what, 2 timing chains?
Yeah.
A 5.4 and a 4.6. Yeah. Then don't even get me talking about the dual overhead cam. You have to take off the whole front of the engine just to take apart that engine. The LS motors though.
Yeah,
those are pretty badass.
Yeah, this is nice.
There's a reason why mechanics don't like working on Fords, because it's too much work for the same amount of work as this Caravan, for example. Nice going. Okay, we're taking a little break while the heads get checked out. We do want you to know that we do get paid to work on these cars. We don't get paid to work on the videos. So if you feel like donating to us, you can. You can help us out with our lunches and things. Thank you very much. How much?
Just $1. Anything helps, really.
$1 helps. Okay, don't forget, when putting on the new head gaskets, there is a left and a right. Okay? The right hand is going to be this side. The left hand is this side. The gaskets should be marked as well. L, for example. There's an R on the back corner of that one for right. It's very important you do not mix these up. Right hand is the inside head. Left hand is the outside head. Okay, so because we don't take off the rocker arms, when you place the head down, we put 2 head bolts in, just a couple threads down though, so the head can still be maneuvered up and down. So, for example, put the rocker arm in, put that down as such, all lined up, they're all in the proper cups of the rocker, and we'll just start tightening a little bit.
Okay, now it's time to torque the head down. We got our trusty torque wrench here. The sequence for this one, start in the middle, obviously, work your way out, but it's 45 pounds to start. The next pass is 65 pounds. Then you need to check that everything is at 65 pounds. And then after the final pass is 90-degree turns after that. Start in the middle. You can do like a little spiral. Make sure you do it.
So what's it?
45 pounds.
65, 65, and
90 degrees.
And 90 degrees. So these are foot pounds.
Correct. Foot pounds. Always foot
Not
pounds.
inch pounds.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, heads are down. They're torqued. Next, let's get that exhaust line back up. That's where they need to be. It's pretty self-explanatory, lining these up. I don't think I need to show you how to do that since you took them off already. Watching Jack do all this work while I'm holding the camera is extremely tiring. Rear exhaust is on. Time for the front exhaust.
Just slap it on there.
Just throw it in there. And he's still doing it. About time for the intake to go back on. Before that, the intake manifold gasket. Before you put the gasket down, make sure you get another one or a new one. Put some silicone at the bottom here, prevent oil from leaking, and over there as well. Make sure it's oil resistance silicone. Use the black Permatex tube. The covers are back on. The intake's back on. Don't forget that one bracket right there with the 10 and the 213s back on. Don't forget the clips for the fuel injectors, the coolant temp sensor, and the EGR. The spark plug wires, as I said before, the cylinders are numbered. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's much easier to do this before you put on the upper intake. All right, you have the 8 10mm bolts on the upper intake. Don't forget to line this guy back up. Vacuum line right here. Fuel line, don't forget that. Got the map sensor. Jack already hooked up the coil. And the brake booster vacuum line, apparently. And I have trouble just lining that up. Next is going to be the exhaust tube to the intake, the bypass. Got the tube hooked back up. Don't forget the 8s, 10s at the bottom, 13 right there. This bracket on the alternator, 13, 13. We got this back on, the air filter cover, the tube. Don't forget to hook up the intake air temp sensor and push this guy back down. Fill it up with coolant, and we're ready to start. Okay, it's running well. Accelerate a little bit. He obviously has a low tire, 382,000 miles, just to change the head gasket on it. These are some good vans where we're just really good at what we do. Thank you for watching.